While we were researching this video, we sort of realized that Lacoste kind of sucks as a brand. I always had this hunch, since they're this big company, but reading about it and their practices and their manufacturing and their supply chains, it made it a bit more real. And then the problem is much bigger than that shirt. Fashion pollutes more than the shipping and the air industries combined. They're responsible for 20% of the world's wastewater. And the worst of that is that we make and we buy clothes faster than ever before. There's even a term for it, fast fashion. And it's kind of revolutionizing how we dress. So two companies are leading the way in this revolution, and those are ASOS and Shein. They're dominating fast fashion. They're worth billions, and they show no signs of slowing down. But how did we get here? So in this little episode of Forensics, we'll check out how fast fashion came to be and how finding a solution to it is not easy at all. Also, I'm officially looking for a new, more environmentally friendly brand for my clothes. So suggestions are welcome. Also remember that the first 5 comments on any video get invited to my free weekly office hours. So make sure you've clicked that bell button next to the subscribe. The crazy world of fast fashion. Okay, so let's talk about some numbers. How many items of clothing do you estimate that you buy in a year? 10? 12? Well, the average US citizen buys up to 68 new clothing items per year. Now, buying clothes is easier than ever, even during the 2020 pandemic. So how did this happen? Well, we of course could go back in history and do a deep dive into how the Industrial Revolution sort of propelled fashion, but we'd be missing the point, because today's consumption is a sign of the times. Plus, we would also be leaving out that both fast fashion and the fashion industry in general have both grown thanks in part to some dark realities. But even before we dive into that, let's see the factors that have defined how we buy clothes today. Because in the 70s, Americans bought 70% of their clothes from the US, from US brands.
You can always tell a Sanger Paris man.
Look at super values from Sears.
Palm Beach, all Americans tailor all year round.
And that number dropped to 56% by 91. And by 2012, it was just 2.5%. Factories popped up in India and Bangladesh and China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and American and European brands loved the cheap labor, so both manufacturing and consumption grew at breakneck speeds. By the early 90s, countries like China and India became hubs for this cheap, mass-produced clothing. Plus, since designs and influence came from the US and from Europe, it was also trendy. Thus, fast fashion was well on its way to becoming the new norm. So brands found this steady supply of inexpensive clothing, and all they had to do was sell. That's what they did. Major brands went on this building spree, setting up shops in every corner imaginable, and some even ventured exclusively into the online market. So while manufacturing countries benefited from investment, textile labor in wealthy nations like the US plummeted. This further enhanced the need for clothes from other countries. It's a vicious cycle that has replicated all over the world. However, that's not to say that companies from Europe and from the US don't benefit from this textile revolution. It's the total opposite, and in the UK, one company in particular has helped revolutionize this world of fashion. The drug behind Europe's fast fashion addiction. We've seen the videos, right? It's millions of unboxed clothes, you try them, you review them, then there are hilarious comparisons between what you get and what the ad said. And one question you might have is how teenagers are able to afford so many clothes. Well, fast fashion has gotten so efficient that it's cheaper to buy clothes now than ever before. So now you can buy a complete wardrobe for like $30. In Europe, the brand that dominates fast fashion is ASOS, but it hasn't had an easy ride. When it first started in 2000, the company had to convince the world that online shopping was a thing, and by selling things that you saw on TV. And that's where the name came from originally. ASOS used to stand for as seen on screen. While the idea seems logical now, let's remember that this is way before online shopping, way before this was a thing. Companies like Amazon aimed at a future in which everything you wanted would be a click away. But that was far-fetched. Still, ASOS wanted to be a part of it. ASOS created its website with little success. Founder Nick Robertson recognizes that at first they were trying to sell anything to make money and sales were slow. For years, ASOS struggled to make ends meet, from convincing people that online shopping was a thing to surviving the dot-com bubble crash, for which we made an awesome video. So it was a difficult time. And then Robertson noticed one thing. Fashion had the highest markup, and it became ASOS's goal to focus on that specifically. And sales still didn't go up. You see, ASOS sold expensive stuff, and those navigating the web back then weren't exactly wealthy people. Instead, they were young shoppers who were broke. And that was kind of a eureka moment for them. Sell stuff from TV to broke teenagers. Not just any stuff, cool stuff. The recipe was a hit. The products were trendy, they were cheap, and they were easy to buy. And from then, the company evolved to become one of the UK's and Europe's biggest clothing providers. ASOS was part of a vicious cycle in which it produced more products because the buyers wanted more variety. And you want to forget about the seasons, right? People just want cool clothes all year round. So ASOS increased its catalog by offering thousands of new pieces in small batches at an almost daily rate. In short, they became the epitome of fast fashion, but they weren't the only ones. But before I talk about the next company, I have a question for you guys. Does your calendar look like mine? And if so, how do you get anything done? Because you don't have a lot of free time. Well, the sponsor of today's video is a Y Combinator graduate, Taskade, that helps teams level up their productivity and get work done faster and smarter in this unified workspace. So when I have a bunch of to-dos and a bunch of ideas swimming around my head, it of course gets harder to focus. So I turn to Taskade to declutter and to sort of document my thoughts so I can fully focus on each task. I use it kind of like a pensieve to write down tasks there. So Taskade can be used by teams or by individuals to create checklists, mind maps, and workflows. So whether you're managing projects or planning future milestones, getting work done with Taskade is simple. You can collaborate with team members on the same page. You can edit projects together in real time. Also, Taskade is free to use for individuals and for teams. You can also upgrade to Pro and receive a 14-day free trial and a permanent 50% discount if you use the coupon code Slidebean when in checkout. Asia's fast fashion lord. So when it comes to Asia, one brand stands above the rest, Shein. If we could summarize it in one word, it would be efficient. So this Chinese manufacturer was born in 2008 as She Inside and began by selling wedding dresses. But founder Chris Xu quickly changed his focus into general fashion as people wanted more than just that special dress. And thanks to this growing market in China, the company expanded fast for the first 5 years. They reached 100 employees in 2013. Also, Xu decided to shorten the name to move to Guangzhou and opted to become more of a real-time retailer. Also from the start, Xu loved algorithms. So from the start, he wanted to use data to be as efficient a company as possible. And that's why the company has prioritized that products need to get to the hubs fast. So to give you an example, providers must be within 5 to 10 driving hours from the headquarters, tops. In addition, products must be available only days after approving concepts, and batches are very small, no more than 100, so that they can be sold really fast. They're also beyond cheap, so you don't expect much in the way of quality. If your new shirt wears out fast, that's no problem. You could just buy another one. It's very cheap. Reports say that Shein can come up with 1,000 new items per day. So it's not out of the question to have a different outfit for each day of the year if you can afford it, but it's not that expensive anyway. So Shein is of course not free of controversy. I'd say it's the total opposite. Major brands like Levi's have sued it for copyright infringement. The company also has a reputation for stealing designs from independent artists and just selling them online. Speaking of products, some have enraged customers, like this chain with a swastika or a phone case with an outline of a handcuffed black male. Still, these two companies are worth billions of dollars. ASOS $5.5 billion as of March 2021, Shein $30 billion as of August 2021. And they're massive numbers, but don't let them blind you from this harsh reality. The price to pay for clothes. Those at the top of the fashion industry move some major money. According to Forbes, in 2018, 5 of the world's 55 wealthiest individuals were owners of fashion companies. It seems that the entire industry has grown at this exponential pace in the last few decades. In 1990, it generated around $500 billion, and now McKinsey estimates that it's closer to $2.5 trillion. So there's no sign of it slowing down. But there is another side to the story. After all, this growth comes at a great cost. First of all, we all know about the working conditions. It's no secret that these factories are dangerous. In Bangladesh, for example, 500 workers died in factory fires between 2006 and 2012. Primary sanitary and safety conditions aren't frequent. There are reports of laborers clocking 16 or 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Still, big brands do take advantage of countries' poor regulations, and they just turn a blind eye. Take Lacoste, for example. Whenever there's an article or report on the fashion supply chain, their name comes up. This company has earned a reputation for keeping a tight lid on anything regarding production. But the truth still manages to come out. A 2018 article by the New York Times revealed that Lacoste works closely with TAL, which is a manufacturer from Malaysia that's known for having multiple factories that more resemble sweatshops. Worker abuse, excessive working hours, and lack of bare necessities are commonplace in these factories. Also in 2018, Lacoste finally agreed to cut all ties with Chinese factories that were using forced Uyghur labor, but that was only after a report came out revealing that Lacoste had ties with these facilities. ASOS and Shein are also part of the problem. Both companies have faced accusations of unethical labor practices, sweatshop conditions, and questionable supply chains, aka just modern slavery. Now, during the pandemic, reports surfaced of ASOS not fulfilling safe working conditions to a point where employees were just walking out. Shein, on the other hand, has consistently denied all accusations and is quick to silence any reports, but both companies insist that they are working to improve these conditions. And then there's a problem that most, if not all, fashion companies share, and that's pollution. According to the EPA, textiles account for 16 million tons of waste a year, just in the US. On the other hand, only 700,000 tons of used clothing can get a second life as export products. And when it comes to water, it's no different. The fashion industry consumes 10% of the global water supply that's dedicated to running factories. On average, one cotton shirt requires 3,000 liters of water. And moreover, those shirts come in different colors, so dyes are responsible for around 20% of the world's wastewater. And this isn't any wastewater. Changes in acidity cause irreparable environmental damage. But then again, a lack of regulations in developing countries means there's little control over pollution. And there's no sign of this slowing down. If anything, it's getting worse. After all, Gen Zs are now used to having this endless closet. So what does this mean for the future? So where is fast fashion taking us? To be very honest, there's very little evidence of this changing anytime soon. Experts now call this ultra fast fashion. If you take Shein, for example, it's a company that understands how young buyers work. As a result, they've become this mainstay in social networks with hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and TikTok. It's no secret that they partner with influencers globally and have a relentless promotion tactic. Plus, they've even created incubators for fashion design. These harbor 500 designers and add new designers every month. In short, they've turned fashion into a gig economy. And they are not the only ones. Adding to the heaps of fast fashion companies, giant Alibaba has also ventured into the market. It launched Ali Likes this year to attack Shein. And the thought of these two companies competing leaves very little hope for a change in our buying patterns. The world's giants aren't letting go of fast fashion. It seems that we're bound to consume clothing until there's no more to have. Even the efforts seem lackluster. Lacoste created a campaign for saving animals and the environment, which involved changing the legendary logo to raise awareness about endangered species. And the world took notice, but for the wrong reasons. First of all, the company tackled the problem of clothing by making more clothes. Lacoste sold the limited edition shirts, which were $190 each, for charity. And yes, it managed to raise around $300,000, but the same year, it turned in $3 billion in revenue. So these efforts leave a bad taste in everybody's mouths. It's more greenwashing than anything else. ASOS and Shein have also promised to improve and provide better working conditions and a sustainable future by 2030, but the question still remains, is there a solution? I mean, I'm ditching my Lacoste shirts and aiming for another brand, but that's just me, and that's not going to change anything for the world. So there's even a bigger question. Does the world want to ditch fast fashion?